Welcome to As the Story Grows. I'm Brian Patton. Today we welcome James Joseph from the band James and the Cold Gun to the podcast. When James and I chatted, the band had just released their latest single, Fragile, which you'll hear part of in this episode, and they had signed with Stone Gossard's Loosegroove Records. James talks about the music scene in Wales and the bands that made a difference, his time in and then stepping away from Holding Absence, the genesis and inspiration for James and the Cold Gun, and more. Absolutely loved getting to chat with James and learn more about him, and I hope you guys really enjoy this conversation. It's been recorded for a while, so I'm stoked to finally share it with everyone. Thanks so much for listening to this episode of As the Story Grows. If this is your first time listening, thank you so much. I would love it if you subscribed to the podcast feed on your podcast platform of choice. We release at least 2 episodes every week, so you never want to miss an episode because you never know when you'll discover your next favorite band. You can find links in the show notes or over at asthestorygrows.com to our podcast community on Discord, our mailing list on Substack, or you can support the show financially and get early access to every episode over on Patreon. And if you think somebody might enjoy this episode, I would love it if you shared it with them. Enjoy getting to know James Joseph.
I've been pulling at those threads, the dark cloud hangs above my head. I've been staring at the seams behind the mask of false esteem.
I got the preamp on the mic turned all the way up. I'm like, I can't go any higher. So if you're good,
Nice.
I'm good.
I'll try not to shout then.
No, you're fine. It's me.
Sweet.
Yeah. Awesome.
Nice to meet you, man.
Nice to meet you too. Are you currently over in Wales?
I am, yeah. So it's what time is it here? It's just turned 8 p.m. So the last of the. It's actually still pretty nice out. Actually, we've had good weather today, so it's
Yeah.
Just in I'm just in the spare bedroom at our guitarist's house right now. We're in the garage working on some new bits as we speak. So it's a nice break. Any chance for me to just skive off and have a little break? I'm keen for.
It's like, I'll see you guys later. Keep working.
Yeah, it's just gotten to the bit of the bit that every musician dreads, where like the song's going well and then it gets to the hard bit and you just don't know what to do. And I'm like, right, see you later.
Yeah.
You guys can figure it out.
Yeah. You grew up in Wales?
Yeah. I've always been from Wales. So I grew up in a place called the Valleys, which is kind of like the outskirts of Cardiff and stuff. I love it, to be honest. It's I think with age and like after like touring and stuff, I've really got like a newfound appreciation for where I come from, and I like actually love like returning to sort of it's not very punk rock, but I love my hometown. You know, most of people hate their hometown and want to leave, but yeah, I love it. Yeah.
What got you into music?
Well, that's a big one. The thing that comes to mind, the very first thing that comes to mind that was like really formative for me was actually the School of Rock film with Jack Black.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that for many people my age in the UK, I don't know if it's the same for in America, but like that came out at a time where I was like in primary school, so like in elementary school. So I would have been about like 10 or 11, and I was just like, oh, that's cool. I want to get a guitar. And then it felt like that was the thing that everyone my age kind of got that year for Christmas, was like a guitar or a bass or a set of drums. And it from there, it just became everything, really. I mean, we had some sad news in the UK this week. Kerrang TV just called it a day. Did you ever get Kerrang TV over there? Or it's kind of like what MTV would have been in the glory. So that was huge in the UK as well. Like Kerrang magazine is like the big. It's like I suppose it's like the equivalent of like alt press over there. And that was another thing. Like constantly seeing like legendary music videos and stuff on the TV, whether it was like Green Day or Nirvana or like even some like new metal stuff that I was into when I was younger. like like Limp Bizkit and Papa Roach. Yeah, it was all that kind of stuff where I was just like, this is weird and it scares me and it makes me excited.
Nice. Yeah, I saw a thing on YouTube the other day, and it was like Kerrang TV's last moments on air. And the videos of the clip, it was like a Papa Roach and a Limp Bizkit video, and I was like, oh, this must be an older thing, but I didn't realize that just happened.
Yeah, those two were on. It feels like those two videos were just on rotation for sure.
Oh man, that's awesome. What led you to pick up guitar? Like just that school of rock, getting it out of
I think so. I guess I don't know why. I don't actually ever know why I gravitated towards guitar. I guess maybe I think guitar was just the most accessible at the time, to be honest. Like I've always fancied playing drums, but I've never been allowed to have a drum set. I mean, I say I've never been allowed. I'm an adult now. I could probably get a drum set, but yeah, it was. I think my mum was willing to get me an acoustic guitar, which was, and then it was the classic kind of thing. If you play the acoustic guitar for like 6 months, then maybe at Christmas you can get the $99 kind of starter electric guitar, it was like a red Strat. I wish I still had it. Actually, it'd be cool if I did. I think I sold it, but yeah, it was very much just because that was an acoustic guitar was easy to get hold of.
Yeah. What was the music scene like? Whether in Cardiff or just outside, like, was there any sort of local scene or just like people interested in starting bands? So Cardiff and Wales in general was a really exciting place to be growing up, actually. Like when I was sort of just starting high school, so like 15, 16 years old, there was a real boom in the music scene in Wales. There were loads of bands that were like making an international impact, which hasn't happened for a while, and until it's kind of happening again recently, actually. But we'll get into that. But at the time, you had like there's a band called Funeral for a Friend who were like they were doing loads of exciting stuff in the post-hardcore world. There was Bullet for My Valentine in like the metalcore sort of world who were playing arenas and stuff. There was an even bigger band, which is kind of taboo to talk about now, but there was a band called the Lost Prophets who were obviously you don't really talk about that too much, but at the time they were huge, the arena band. Yeah, they were probably one of the only Welsh bands to like fully break America. I mean, the only other one that comes to mind is more of like an indie band, which is the Stereophonics. I think they have like one big American one song that was huge in America as well. But again, it was just like there was so much great music happening, and it felt like that was very much like the golden era of Welsh music. There was this term coined as well, like cool Cymru. Basically, Cymru is Welsh for Wales, and yeah, people would call it cool Cymru because there was this just time in the early 2000s where there were lots of like famous people from Wales, like actors and TV personalities, and then the bands and stuff. So it was really exciting. It was nice to see like people who come from where you come from, actually making an impact on the world stage. It was really cool. That's awesome. At what point were you like, I have to start a band and play music?
Oh, that's a good question. I think so. I remember I went to this so I was dating a girl who went to like a school, like the next school over, like in the town away from where I live, and there was this like charity event, and it was kind of like kids from her school were playing music, and there was a couple of like singer-songwriters and all this, and then there was this group of like, again, I was about 15, 16, and there was a group of guys from her school, and they were a proper band, and they did a cover set full of like the sort of stuff that I would have seen on Kerrang at the time. So it was like they played through, like, I remember they did like Velvet Revolver, Slither, they did like Papa Roach, they probably did like Sweet Child of Mine really badly, just anything that would have been on the TV at the time. They probably did like Basket Case for Green Day. And I just remember being like, whoa, what the hell? They're playing like well, how are they doing that? They're playing like American songs that I've heard on the TV, like, and it blew my mind that like you could get with a group of your friends and just like cover songs. And I think after that, I got chatting with them, became really good friends with them, and sort of just got into that world of realizing that there was people playing in bands together. And I think I just got hooked of the idea of that, and like the kinship and stuff between like other people who were just finding their way as musicians is really cool. It was a really exciting time. And then I wasn't that great at guitar back then. I was like I'm still pretty bad at guitar for someone who does it as a job. But I went to another gig a few weeks later, and I saw this awesome like local metal band. They were all a little bit older than me. They were probably like maybe about 20, and I was like 16, and they didn't have a bass player at the time. And I was so like impressed by what they did. They were kind of doing like it was kind of like maybe like Parkway Drive, Unearth, that kind of like metalcore sort of sound. Yeah. And I was like, this is amazing. At the time as well, I was like, this is so heavy. Like people are moshing and stuff. And I realized they didn't have a bass player, and I was like, bass is kind of easy guitar. When at least that's like, I think that's why most people get into bass initially. Yeah. Obviously, there's some people who are straight away like slapping and popping and doing all the kind of hard stuff. But for me, it was like, okay, this is my chance. This is like an easier version of guitar. And I basically went up to them and I was like, hey, I play bass. Can I join your band? And luckily enough, they let me. And again, that was my first like real band. And then after that point, I just got obsessed. Like I was the guy in the band that like lived and breathed it. Like I was the one like trying to design little like t-shirts and like make logos and just like, I just like loved it. Became obsessed.
Yeah. There's the moment when you're on stage and in that rehearsal room, you're like, I have to keep doing this.
There's some good pictures of me actually from like one of my first gigs with that band where like everyone else is like rocking out, and you can see me like trying to like look over the shoulders, kind of like trying to see what fret we're on, because I just had no idea. I was just there like hitting the open, just like just trying to, are you on 5? Okay.
That's hilarious. Let's talk about this current project, James and the Cold Gun. What was the catalyst for this project?
It's basically I was in a band prior to this one starting called Holding Absence, and I was still playing bass guitar, still just faking it, and that band had actually got signed and stuff and had become like basically like kind of my full-time thing. Like we were touring quite heavily and stuff, and we'd signed to like an American record label and stuff. We signed to Sharp Tone with that band. We were working on our second record, and to be honest, I wasn't really feeling it as much as maybe I was like 5 years earlier when we started the band. My taste was kind of changing and stuff. And what happened with that band is basically loads of people came and went from that band. And I don't mean this as like a dig, but like the band became a lot more focused around the vocalist, who's a really great singer and a great performer and stuff. But the band sort of turned into slightly more of like a pop rocky kind of thing compared to what maybe I was hoping it would be. So I'd kind of lost a little bit of interest there. Then lockdown happened. So COVID happened. And the main thing that was keeping me like enjoying the old band was the amount of touring that we were getting to do. Yeah. And we'd just hit the point where like we had like an agent, and we were like it was like, cool, next month you're going to Germany, then you're going to go to Australia, and all this sort of like bucket list stuff that I'd never done before. And I was like, I'm even if the music's not 100% my bag, I will stay in this band and enjoy the touring. And then COVID happened, and all of those plans went out the window. So I never actually got to go to any of those cool. I mean, we did Germany a couple of times already, but I never got to go to like Australia or Japan or any of the bucket list stuff. And when COVID happened, I kind of realized that like I need to want to still do a band to the level that we were trying to do. I need to like be in love with like the music. And So me and my housemate at the time, James Biss, who's who's the lead guitarist in the band. So there's two Jameses in the band. I should clarify that as well. That's kind of where the name comes from. But we started just jamming for fun because we couldn't really do anything. We were just stuck isolated. So we had this garage. We would just jam and like play through like terrible covers of like Queens of the Stone Age songs and like Nirvana and stuff. And it felt like we were both like 15 again. And it just felt good. And we decided to like kind of follow it. And then it got to a point where I sort of had to decide, do I want to like try and do this new project to the same sort of level, or at least try and get it to the same sort of level as the band I was in? And I decided actually, yeah, like everything, like that sort of like lack of like stability that kind of COVID caused actually was really good for me. It was like, oh, you know what? Just take a chance on the new thing that you love even more. Yeah. And here we are. So far, so good, I think.
Yeah, that's cool. It's funny. I like you being in holding absence wasn't in the press release, and I tried to do some research on you. Nothing came up because I've talked to Lucas twice on the show.
Cool, cool.
Yeah. So, yeah.
That's cool, man. Yeah. Like, there we go. Yeah,
I just saw he's singing for a funeral for a friend now.
Yeah, there we go. It's all coming together. Yeah, that was cool to see. I was really stoked for him on that because again, that's just one of those things that like, if you're from where we're from, that's such a huge, it's just like it's a really really weird cool thing to do. So
yeah, that's cool. What you talked about these cover songs playing Queens of the Stone Age and Nirvana? Did that just drive you to like that 90s sound? I mean, had you had experience singing prior to that?
Oh no, I'd never sung before that. No, I think I knew I could sing a tiny bit. I think I was gonna start maybe singing some like backing vocals in the old band and stuff. Like that was like something we discussed doing. But no, when I was younger, I was way too shy to, and again, I think that was another reason I opted for the bass guitar because I just never considered myself being at the front of a band. Yeah. Like that was like beyond my wildest dreams at the time. So yeah, singing was a totally new thing for me. And, yeah, it's actually quite weird. I don't think of myself as a singer very often, but only recently am I starting to be like, oh yeah, I start practicing and like actually like I don't know, like learning more about it as if it was an instrument, if you know what I mean. It's still so new to me. Yeah, it's funny. Yeah.
Had you ever written lyrics or poetry before? Or is this like your first attempt at that too?
I've always been really into lyrics. Okay. And it was often me that would like go back and forth with Lucas in the old band. Like just sort of like I'd be like a bit like the almost playing devil's advocate, being like, is that the best way you could say that? Or is like, does that make like it's kind of helpful. Like now, James B does that for me. I think it's nice where you've got someone to bounce off because sometimes lyrics can get so frustrating. It's like a bit of a puzzle. Yeah. Like some of the best lyrics I've ever written have just come out of thin air, and I think that's why some people like believe in the whole kind of muse thing, where it just comes to you in the night and stuff. But there's other lyrics where it's just felt like Sudoku or something. It's just like, oh, what fits in this space? Yeah. Like I know what I want it. I know what I want it to go like, but at the time it's like there's no words that fit into this thing.
Yeah.
But so I've always quite enjoyed like. I guess I've always tried to make sure in any band I've been in, even though I've never been the singer, I've always tried to make sure the lyrics aren't total garbage. Right. I find it frustrating when there's like just sometimes it's funny though, like actually there's some songs that are like massive songs and you've sung along to them for years, and then you look at the lyrics and you're like, wait, what is he saying? You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. Like I love the Deftones, but Chino's lyrics are sometimes you're just like, okay, right?
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. How'd you guys get connected with Loosegroove Records?
That was a pretty mad story actually. So in amongst all of the kind of figuring out which what actually no, it was after I just made the decision to leave Holding Absence. I it was halfway through the lockdown, and things were slowly starting to open up, and that band was kind of starting to carry on the upward kind of trajectory that it was on, and the kind of, I guess, the gravity of like the situation of the decision that I'd made was hitting in, and I was a bit like, whoa, I've decided to start from ground zero again. Is this like the stupidest decision anyone's ever made? Because I guess it's like quitting. It'd be like leaving a great job and then like feeling a bit like you're unemployed for a while or something, you know? It's like it's a weird decision. But I got really, to kind of help me mentally with all that stuff, I'd gotten really into running, and I basically became part of this like local running club, which was like musicians from our area, and it's this thing called Running Punks, and it's really cool actually. It's like just loads of people who work in music or into bands. It's become so big in our local area now that like it's just got loads of people. But at the time it was like musicians and people who worked in bands and stuff. And that run club, one of the guys who was at the run club was doing like a charity compilation for like a homelessness charity. And he was like, oh, you're in a band, do you want to give me one of your songs? I gave him one of the songs, kind of thought nothing of it, you know, it's just like a Bandcamp fundraiser thing. Yeah. But as luck would have it, DJ Kevin Cole, who's a DJ at KXP in Seattle, I'm sure you know about KXP. He really liked the compilation, and as he, out of all the songs, he picked our song, a song called Long Way Home, to kind of be the song that he would play regularly on KXP. And then the crazy part here is, as all the running was happening and the compilation had got on the air and stuff, I'd fallen down some stairs and broken my leg really badly. Oh, man. So I got hooked on running again. I've got like an addictive personality, so like just like getting hooked on doing bands and stuff. I got hooked on running. Yeah. Suddenly broke my leg really bad and I couldn't run anymore. So, and I had to move back home to my mum's house just because I couldn't really like do much on my own. So I'm feeling sorry for myself, in bed, broken leg, kind of probably the lowest point I've ever felt as well. And kind of like spending loads of time online watching how well my old band was doing as well. It was a weird time. Yeah. Out of the blue, we get a message from Stone Gossard off like a weird kind of burner account, because he doesn't have he does now, but at the time he didn't have like an official account for himself. Get a message off like S Gossard 123 or whatever it was. Hey guys, it's Stone from Pearl Jam here. I've just heard you on KXP in Seattle. I love this song. Like, have you got a record label? And I was like, it's the kind of message where like, you ever get those emails where it's like an African king has loads of money, like, loads of money for you, and you're like, okay. It felt very much like one of those. And actually, it was him. I think I replied a couple of days later, because I was just like, oh, whatever, I'm not in the mood for this shit. Decided a couple of days later, I was like, oh, I will reply, give him my email. Then within like an hour, I get a proper official looking email, and there's like a bunch of like really proper emails on CC, like from the team at Loosegroove. And they're like, yeah, so we want to sign you guys. Like, what are you thinking? Like, what have you got coming up? And I was just there like in bed, just like, holy shit. Like, it's actually the dude from Pearl Jam. Like, and he likes our band. So yeah, it's a proper fairy tale story. Yeah, you definitely think like one of your friends is fucking with you, and you're just like, oh, okay, yeah, you're from Pearl Jam. yeah. Funny enough, one of the guys in the band is really gullible, and when he was younger, his bandmates convinced him that they got signed to Gullible Records. so cruel. So funny though. That's so mean. Talk to me about the visual aesthetic for the band. There are like certain single artworks or album artworks that feel like they tie together, unify, and there are others that seem more for the release specifically. Is there a vision for the visual element? That's tough. I think there definitely will be for the album. We just wanted part of the reason we had it self-titled is we just wanted to kind of be like, this is just who we are right now. There's not really a theme, and we're not going to try and force a theme, because I do think some bands out there, just in my opinion, are just full of shit, and they'll just be like, we've got this amazing theme, like, and I'm like, no, there's not. Like, stop lying. Obviously there are bands that do themed records amazingly. But for our first record, it was very much just a case of like, we found this cool live picture of us. We wanted it to look a bit 90s because we love, like, it's basically a Soundgarden ripoff, to be honest. But for the first record, that was kind of our thoughts there. We wanted to keep it nice and simple, just have the band name, a live shot to kind of show that it's guitar music and it's like energetic and stuff. For the next record, we're actually kind of figuring out how to like do a bit more of the theme, and like we've got some cool artwork that we're working on that's like not anywhere just yet. So I'm excited to see how we can kind of just improve upon that a little bit. In terms of all the singles, to be honest, at the moment the single artwork is more, I don't want to say throwaway because I still like it, but like it's purely just something to go there whilst we're in this interim period where it's just like we're drip feeding a few songs here and there. The one thing that's a bummer about like being in a modern day band is just the fact that like it feels like you have to put a lot more music out. It feel like bands now are doing like 6 singles sometimes, whereas back in the day it was like 2 or 3 max, you know?
I remember like peak MTV of especially the pop era. You were lucky if you got a single before the album dropped, and then they would just like the lifespan of the album would have singles. Now it's you basically have to give people the whole album before the album comes out, and it's like
it's weird.
It's like I've seen bands where the album comes out and 2 months later they have a brand new single that's going to be on the next album, and you're just like, I mean, cool, I guess, but it's a frustrating world. Like, I like albums, I like singles, I like when people drop new music, but I'm also like, as a person who makes music and consumes music, it can be frustrated where you're just like,
totally.
I've heard your whole record already, and
totally. It is a shame. It's something we're aware of. I think we're trying to sort of. There are some bands that are going totally for the new way of doing things, where it's as if they don't even care about albums anymore. And then there's the bands that do totally old school, that just they're just rejecting the kind of new way. And I think we're somewhere in between, where we're like, we want to play the game a little bit, and we want to release a few singles, but our end goal is that it's so more people can eventually just enjoy a full album, because we'll always be an album band and we'll always love a good album, I think. It's the more like it's the purest way, I think.
Are the 2 singles you've released so far this year looking forward to an album, or is they just standalones as part of just the constant drip of music?
So this is a funny one because we
can't talk about it.
No, it's actually quite nice to talk about it. It's a bit like therapy, really, for me, because I'm constantly just trying to figure out what we're doing. But, basically, we recorded like the bones of an album in Seattle back in November. We had 4 or 5 days at the end of the tour where Stone let us use his studio, which is Studio Litho in Seattle. It's a wicked place, but we only had 4 or 5 days. So the idea was that we were going to basically like make the skeletons for a bunch of tracks there, like basically get like drums done, because it's a really great drum room, and also try and get like some bass and rhythm guitars down. So we basically have like 70% of an album done, and me and James B, now we're back home from tour, we're trying to finish that. But what we didn't want to do is we didn't want to wait too long before putting out music, because it still kind of feels like we're still such a small band, and we're only just people are only just discovering us like as we speak. So our idea was that we'd put out a few singles over the next few months, and then kind of reevaluate like what we're going when we're going to try and put an album out. Because the weird thing is, we put out our first album last summer, and it feels like I've speak to loads of my friends in bands like this. It feels like a week after your album comes out, it's in a sad kind of way. It feels just dead.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think every musician struggles with that now, because I think people's attention spans are just like shot from like TikTok and Reels and Netflix, and just like how quick we consume things now.
Yeah.
I mean, it was funny actually. We're watching. I'm going off on a tangent here, but me and my girlfriend were watching this show that we love called The Boys on Amazon, and we watched like the first 3 episodes the other night of the new season, and then a little thing comes up, and it's like, oh, you have to wait a week for the next episode. And we were like, what the fuck? What kind of? They were totally forgetting that that's just like something we used to always do, and it was fun. And it was probably a lot healthier. Whereas now it's like, oh, I want to watch 8 hours of this, like. Right. And instantly, once the season's over, it's like, next season, when's it going to be? Mm-hmm. But in answer to your question, I think the first song we released, "The Sting in Your Tail," to us that kind of feels more like a B-side. It's one that didn't really ever feel great. So, but we also didn't want to bin it. So it was kind of like, it almost felt like we just wanted to pop it out. Whereas I think "Fragile," which is the newest song, that song feels, it still feels good to us, which is something I always look for. It's like, if I still like something 6 months later, it's usually a good sign to me.
Yeah, right.
If that makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I get it. It's like, the good thing about the way you can release music these days is like, you know, I remember being young and you're just waiting for like that EP of B-sides to come out, like of extra material, and gobbling it up. Where now it's like, well, we got extra songs and it's been, 6 months or whatever. We could throw a single out there and people will be like, oh yeah, that band, I like that band. But
totally.
But I get what you're saying. I have so many albums digitally on my computer and phone, but I just get like, I don't want to hear anything on my fucking computer speakers, and I'll go put a cassette and record on that I've listened to 1,000 times. I'm just like, I just want to touch something and listen to it in full, and not just like be distracted by my phone and shit.
Yeah. Okay. That's cool. Cool. Oh, well, I'm glad people still listen like that.
Oh yeah. All the time. But I'm old. So. You just put out this single. What's the rest of this year look like? Is it just trying to write music and focus on an album? Are you looking at planning a tour later this year?
Right now we are, tonight we are planning to try and finish a new song. Like, that's the goal. We're pulling like a bit of an all-nighter to try and finish.
As soon as we're done.
As soon as we're done, hopefully they figure out the bit that's been driving me insane all week. I'm either gonna go in the room after this and be like so happy and so proud of everyone for figuring it out, or I'm just gonna be back into hell where it's just like, it's pure misery for another few hours until we figure it out. But no, we've got a really, really cool tour that I think we're either announcing at the end of this week or next week. We're going on a UK European tour with Duff McKagan from Guns N' Roses.
It's pretty good.
Which would be sick. Yeah. It's going to be quite interesting though, because the venues are like almost like concert halls, because he's doing a kind of like, it's like quite laid back, and it's almost got like an MTV Unplugged kind of vibe. And he's got a band full of absolute like, like real musicians. Yeah. And then there's us 4 like punks who are just gonna like rip through like a messy set. And I'm almost waiting to speak to them to be like, yo, you guys know what we sound like, right? You don't mind if we're like, going. It's gonna be interesting though. But I think for us, it's just amazing to have like the fact that like Duff is gonna be posting a poster like with our name on it.
Yeah.
I think it'll really help us reach so many new people who might dig what we're about. I think it's going to be great. And he's, from everyone I know who's had an interaction with him, say he's like one of the coolest, most down to earth like people for someone who's in such a big band,
Yeah.
Nice. So yeah, really excited for that. And then the rest is a mystery, to be honest. I think we'll just see what happens. We're definitely going to try and release some more songs. I'd like to say that before the year is out, we'll hopefully know about an album release date. I think that the other thing that's worth mentioning is another thing that makes it really hard for bands at the moment is there's such delays in getting vinyl made. Like I think last year when we were trying to do our album, I think it was like 6 months to get the vinyl made. So we were sitting on the album for so long, just wishing we could put it out. And of course, the vinyl is kind of one of the only ways for the label to like claw back money. Like the physical sales is kind of where it's at. So like you're kind of at the mercy of like when you can get vinyl done.
Yeah. It's gotten like a little better since COVID, but it's still a mess. And it's not great. And
I'm actually going to try and have that chat with our label later. Just be like, how long are we going to wait? How long are we going to need, guys?
Stuck in a hole.